Hello students, welcome to my channel Learning History Made Easy. In today's video, we'll be continuing with the series on Buddhism. This is the second part, that is Buddha's life, birth and early life. So in the last part, we have seen the background for the rise of the new religion. Here we will see the early life of Buddha. So regarding the early life of Buddha, a four-line verse chanted by Buddhist followers enumerates four main events in the life of Gautama. He was later called as the Buddha or Awakened One. So actual name was Siddhartha. He was called as Gautama and later Buddha or the Awakened One. So which is that four-line verse which the Buddhist followers chant? The Buddha born in Kapilvastu realized the way in Magadha, preached the Dharma in Saranath, and entered nirvana in Kushinagara. So these are the four-line verse which tells about four main events in the life of Gautama. Born in Kapilvastu, realized the way in Magadha, preached the Dharma in Saranath, and entered nirvana in Kushinagara. All these four locations were undoubtedly important pilgrimage sites that devotees continue to visit even centuries after Buddha's demise. So, all these four places are considered to be main centers of the Buddhist religion, and still, even now, people go and visit these places. Siddhartha Gautama was born into an aristocratic family around 5th century BC. He was born in Lumbini Garden to the east of Kapilvastu. So the birthplace of Buddha was Lumbini Garden. His parents were King Shuddhodhana and Queen Devi. His birth was accompanied by all sorts of auspicious signs, so they named him Siddhartha. So during his birth and during that time, there were so many auspicious signs seen by King Shuddhodhana and Queen Devi. Because of that, he was called as Siddhartha. Shakya was his family name. So he was also called as Shakyamuni. When Shakyamuni was 7 days old, his mother, Queen Devi, passed away. He was nurtured and raised by his aunt, Queen Mahaprajapati Gautami. So, because his mother passed away when he was just 7 days old, he was taken care by his aunt, that is Mahaprajapati. He was provided with all the comforts and luxuries. After Shakyamuni was born, his father invited many famous Brahmin scholars to perform the naming ceremony. So during the naming ceremony, many famous Brahmin scholars had come. They were invited by King King Shuddhodhana. And during the naming ceremony, a wise man called as Asita Rishi came to offer salutation. So what he said, this Rishi told something about the child, that is about Siddhartha. He said that your son, the prince, will surely study the path, attain truth, attain true enlightenment, turn the wheel of the great Dharma, benefit devas and humans, and open the eyes of the world. So this was a special thing told by a Brahmin called as Asita Rishi when he came during the naming ceremony of Siddhartha. What he said, your son, the prince, will surely study the path. He will attain true enlightenment. He will turn the wheel of the great Dharma and he will benefit humans and open the eyes of the world. When Shakyamuni was 7 years old, he began to receive instructions in the palace. And by the time he was 15, he had already completed his learning in all branches of cultural and military knowledge. So his education was when he was 7 years old, he started receiving all the instructions. By the time he was 15, he had already completed learning all the branches of cultural and military knowledge. King Shuddhodhana set the 8th day of the second month of that year for the great ceremony, anointing Shakyamuni and investing him with the position of crown prince. Now King Shuddhodhana wanted him to be the crown prince. So what he did, he arranged for a great ceremony for anointing Shakyamuni and investing him with the position of crown prince. But Shakyamuni, with his great compassion, tried to seek for the total release of all people from the suffering and affliction of the world. But Shakyamuni's thought was something else. He was not interested in all these things. He had great compassion towards human beings. He tried to seek the total release of all people from the suffering and affliction of the world. The characteristics of worldly existence, that is, the strong eating the weak, the troubles of a multitude of sufferings, the cruelty and heartlessness, all plunged him into even greater confusion and even deeper pain. So Shakyamuni was very kind hearted, compassionate. He had a lot of problems by seeing the characters of worldly existence. He saw that the strong is eating the weak, that there are so many multitudes of troubles and sufferings in this world, the cruelty and heartlessness, all these made him go into greater confusion and even deeper pain. Shakyamuni was always seeking for liberation from the afflictions and sufferings of the human world and passed his days in solitary contemplation. The sensitivity prevented him from wallowing in the privilege that was his by birth, and instead led him to ask fundamental questions about human existence. See, Shakyamuni was born into luxury, that is, he had the privilege by birth, he was the crown prince, but he instead asked the fundamental questions about human existence. He was not interested in all other worldly luxuries. This made King Shuddhodhana remember Asita Rishi's prediction. So this time when Shakyamuni started showing all these kind of characteristics, King Shuddhodhana remembered Asita Rishi's prediction. When he came for the child's naming ceremony, he had given a prediction. So King Shuddhodhana remembered that. Siddhartha was ushered into marriage with a young woman, Yashodhara. In order to resolve the question of human life and search for ultimate truth of the universe, Shakyamuni wanted with all his heart to leave home and study the path. So although he was married, he was in search of an answer for the questions of life. He was in search for the ultimate truth of the universe. So he wanted to leave home and study the path. He had understood that human life is impermanent, that no one can avoid the encroachment of birth, old age, sickness, and death. So Siddhartha understood that these things and all cannot be avoided, that is, birth, old age, sickness, death. King Shuddhodhana wanted Shakyamuni to have a son so that the royal succession would not be cut off. They had a son named Rahula. So King Shuddhodhana wanted Shakyamuni to have a son because he wanted to continue the royal succession. And like that, Siddhartha and Yashodhara had a son. Son's name was Rahula. Siddhartha's intention to leave home and seek the path became more and more urgent. Leaving all behind, he stole away from the palace at midnight. The ascetic Siddhartha, who once lived in the lap of luxury, now became a penniless wanderer, living on what little the charitably minded gave of their own accord. Now, Siddhartha, who was living in the lap of luxury, left everything. He left his palace, he left his family, and he now became a penniless wanderer. He was wandering around, he wanted to find the ultimate truth of life. Siddhartha first approached Alara Kalama, a distinguished ascetic. Now he wandered around in search of a teacher. So he first approached Alara Kalama, and Gautama was not satisfied with a discipline and a doctrine which only led to a high degree of mental concentration but need not lead to disgust, detachment, enlightenment, etc. So that ascetic Alara Kalama's what his discipline and his doctrine did not attract Siddhartha. He was not impressed by that. He politely took leave from him. So when he was not satisfied with him, he left from the first guru or Alara Kalama. Next, he approached Udaka Ramaputta. During the 6 years' time that Shakyamuni had been cultivating practice in the mountains, he had already visited all famous men of path. Now, like this, like Alara Kalama, like Udakarama, he had approached various men of path during all these 6 years that he was wandering around. He visited or he what to say went under the guidance of all these men of path. He had found no genuine enlightened teacher, so he had not gotten any results. So even after going around and visiting all these men of path or all these wise men, he did not find a genuine enlightened teacher. Okay, so he had not gotten any result. He practiced and cultivated difficult austere practice for 6 years. Later, he abandoned this too and went off alone towards the south. Thus he is said to have going from place to place, seeking the guidance of various teachers. So he wandered around from place to place, seeking the guidance of different teachers. He also cultivated his own practices of difficult austere practices, but still he was not satisfied, and he later abandoned all this and he went towards the south. So this is how Siddhartha, his early life, then how he went away from the palace and all the luxury, and then he wandered around under the guidance of different wise men. Now, in the next video, I'll be explaining how he got enlightened, and after enlightenment, what did Siddhartha do? How did he spread his teachings? All those things I'll be explaining in the coming video. So, in the first video, we saw the background for the rise of the religion of Buddhism. The second video, we saw the birth of Siddhartha, his early life, his education, how he left his palace and what made him leave his palace, and how he wandered around for 6 years. So, if, in case you have any doubt regarding all these things, you can ask in the comment section. And also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Your likes and shares will be of a great encouragement for me to make more and more videos. I hope to see you all soon in the coming video. Thank you for watching.